Jim?
It's all yours.
So who are the tight squeeze here?
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me. I don't get invited to many of these things. The position that we're taking, and in fact, the district attorney has taken the position that Riker should not be closed down and separated into 4 separate jails. And I'm going to go through some of the reasoning behind it. First, I just want to go a little bit of background. First, I've been an assistant DA for 40 years. I'm in charge of the trial division of the district attorney's office, which includes the intake bureau, which is where all the cases come in, the criminal court bureau, which deals with misdemeanor cases, the grand jury bureau, which indicts felony cases, Supreme Court bureaus, which prosecute felony cases, and I also am in charge of the Gang Violence and Hate Crimes Bureau and the Career Criminal Major Crimes Bureau. I've been an executive assistant DA under DA Brown since 1992. And I got involved in this, the argument about closing Rikers for a very simple reason. It started a couple of years ago when New York City enacted a bail fund where they were going to post bail for defendants charged with misdemeanors who had bail set at $2,500 or less. In other words, a defendant would get arrested, say in Queens, for misdemeanor. A judge would look at his record and set bail. Bail would be set at $2,000. The city of New York proposed that the city would post the defendant's bail so that he could get out on bail. Now, that may sound kind of silly, but the New York City Council actually passed that bill. The district attorney sent me down to the city council to argue against it. And we started hearing all these claims that people were making about the people who were held in jail on small amounts of bail. When they started all this, it became, you have a defendant who's taking up 2 seats on the subway, and he gets locked up by the police officers. He gets arraigned by a judge. The judge sets $500 bail, and the guy spends 2 months in jail awaiting trial, and then the case gets dismissed. First of all, that doesn't happen. Okay? It simply doesn't happen. But they kept repeating this over and over and over again. Then it became defendants charged with minor crimes, say fare beating. The guy jumps a turnstile, gets arrested by the police officer. He's arrested before a judge. The judge sets $1,500 bail. He can't make it. He spends 2 months in jail awaiting trial. We looked through the entire system in Rikers Island. We could not find a single person being held just on fare beating. It doesn't happen, but they keep repeating it. And it got very frustrating for us. We did a study at one point in Queens County, and we looked at all misdemeanor cases arraigned in 1 week. There were about 700 of them. And we looked at them, we pulled every single file on each one of those 700 cases. There were, bail was set on 43 defendants. About 6% of the defendants charged with a misdemeanor had bail set. That's in the whole county for a week. Then we, we took those 43 files and we looked at the records of those 43 defendants who had bail set. And again, these are people charged with a misdemeanor, mostly petty larceny, shoplifters, people stealing stuff from your car when they break into it. It's not $250 worth of damage. Out of those 43 people, there were 478 prior arrests. In other words, they had an average of 11 prior arrests each. Among those 43 people, they had 340 prior convictions. That's an average of about 8 prior convictions each. They had an average of 2.7 prior bench warrants, which means that they've been arraigned, bail was set, and they didn't appear back in court. 2.7 each. Those 43 defendants had 93 pending cases in Queens County. So these are the people that are having bail set on. It's not the poor schnook. It's not the poor schnook who just doesn't have fare to get on the subway. He's on his way to work or whatever. It's the career misdemeanors in this county. They are the people who you see more often committing crimes than you ever see murdering people. That's the kind of crime that causes a declination in the quality of life of people in Queens County. So once we looked at those numbers, I actually went down to talk to some of my assistants in criminal court who prosecute misdemeanor cases. And I asked them, do you see a lot of people being held on your cases, all your pending criminal court cases, who are being held because they committed a minor crime, or they have no prior record, or they have bail set at $500 in the campaign? And every single one of them, and we have 40 assistant DAs in criminal court, every single one of them laughed at me. And they told me, judges in the criminal court do not set bail on defendants unless they have a substantial record, unless they have a warrant pending against them for a prior crime, or unless they have a history of not coming back to court. So then we started looking at all sorts of things. We would hear that there aren't enough alternative sentencing programs for people in the court system. And I went to our director of alternative sentencing, who's one of the most respected people on alternative sentencing in the city of New York. His name is Doug Knight. And he's been doing this all his life. He's been with our office for about 15 years, and before that he's involved in alternative sentencing, processing defendants for alternative sentencing programs. That could be drug programs, anger management programs, DWI programs, we have a mental health court, we have a veterans court, we have a drug treatment court, and you know, he told me we have about 24 different programs for people who get charged with crime. And I asked, well, what happens when people don't do what they're supposed to do on their alternative sentencing program? He said, well, then the judge will give them an alternative to the alternative sentence, which is jail. And it may be a small amount of time. It may be 10 days, it may be 30 days, it may be 60 days. But that's what they do to enforce the alternative sentencing programs. So when you hear about all the people who are in jail on sentences of 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, 60 days, a lot of those people have been arrested multiple times. They've been given an alternative sentencing program, which means it's either community service or it's getting involved in the drug treatment program, and they didn't do it. And the only alternative the judge has is to sentence them to some jail time. And they'll give them 10 days the first time, 20 days, 30 days. And those are what a lot of those small sentences are. But when you hear people talk about it, one of the things they want to do is eliminate the sentence of 30 days or less. Just eliminate it. Nobody should be sentenced to 30 days or less. So now what does a judge do when a defendant is sentenced to community service for his 5th misdemeanor conviction, and he refuses to do it? What is a judge supposed to do? If you have no alternative of sentencing him to jail, what is your alternative? There are no more alternative sentencing programs to give the defendant other than jail. So then we started looking at the population on Rikers, because when we started hearing about the Rikers Island was going to be closed, and we heard that they set up a commission to study whether Rikers could be closed, the person who was put in charge of it was Jonathan Lipman, who was a former chief judge of the Court of Appeals, a very experienced jurist, who before he even got on the commission expressed his opinion that Rikers Island should be closed. The commission members were appointed by Melissa Mark Viverito, who was the president of the city council. She She appointed all the members of the commission to study the closing of Rikers. She has been a vehement opponent of Rikers Island and very much in favor of closing Rikers now, as soon as possible. So she appointed this committee, which consisted of about 30, 35 people. There were real estate developers put on it. There were good government groups were put on it. Legal aid was put on it. There were a couple of PA's offices who had previously expressed skepticism about keeping Rikers open. In other words, they would like to see Rikers closed. The district attorney, when they finished this report from the Lippman Committee, the report is about 250 pages long. And District Attorney Brown went down and testified before the committee. And he was barely mentioned in the report. D.A. Brown said that why close Rikers? It's a perfect facility. It can be fixed, it can be rehabilitated, it can be changed. It gives you so many more options than trying to find 4 places around the city of New York that are willing to accept 1,000 to 2,000 inmates being put in the middle of their community. And the DA, I was down there with him. He spoke eloquently about it. We had all of these statistics, which we shared with the committee. We went through everything with them. We explained why we thought it was a bad idea. And yet they barely even mentioned that the DA was down there to testify before this committee. This district attorney of a county of 2.4 million people. What they talked about in the report were relatives of inmates who were in Rikers. They talked about how difficult it was for them to get to Rikers to visit their relatives. They talked about the impact it was having on families of inmates, but not a single, I don't say a single, but a very, very scant mention of the testimony of the district attorney opposing. There was no opposition report written. It was as if this entire committee approved of the notion of closing down Rikers, when there was testimony before the committee opposing the closing of Rikers. So now, after the report came out, I read it, and quite frankly, it infuriated me as the more I read through it, the more detail that I went through. First of all, the cost of replacing Rikers with 4 borough-placed jails is estimated by the commission. Right? This is what they say it's going to cost. It's going to cost $10.7 billion. All right? But what they don't include in that is while this is going on, they're going to rehabilitate some of the jails on Rikers because they can't leave them in the condition they're in. This is the report. They can't leave them in the condition they're in for 10 years while they're building all these facilities all over the city. So they earmarked $1.6 billion to rehabilitate the facilities that are there currently on retirement. Then, when you read through the report, the $10.7 billion, the city doesn't have $10.7 billion in the drawer someplace to pull out and pay for, replacing, building all these 4 prisons around the city. So they have to finance it over 30 years. And the commission itself estimates that with the financing costs, it will actually cost $23.2 billion over 30 years to build the 4 jails around the city. Now that's what the city, that's what they estimate. Now, I've been in Kew Gardens Courthouse for 40 years. About 9 years ago, they took down the parking lot across from the Queen's House of Detention, right across from Borough Hall. It took them 7 years to get approval to repair that lot, to replace that lot. It took them 2 years to build it. It's a 1-lane parking lot, 1-level parking lot. That's it. It was 9 years from the time they condemned the parking lot until they opened it. How long do you think it's going to take them to build a state-of-the-art prison here in Kew Gardens, or down in Brooklyn, or down in Manhattan, or up in the Bronx. The Bronx, they don't even have a site. Here in Queens, I'm going to get to my numbers over here to show you who is in jail, so you realize what they have to do in order to close Rikers. But Queens House of Detention houses 500 people. It was built to house actually 475 prisoners. The city of New York is now drafting plans to build a jail on the location where the Queens House is now, including the total demolition of the Queens House and building a new prison that will house 1,500 prisoners. In other words, triple what it was when it was the Queens House of Detention. We found that out because some architects came to talk to us, because we're on the Justice Implementation Task Force, which is the mayor's unit, to talk about closing Rikers. And they came to us to ask us what we thought the issues would be in taking down the Queens House and building a new prison. And we went through everything. We mentioned the parking lot. They were there. In fact, they said that once they start building the jail, they're going to have to consider parking, because it's impossible to park around there now. The parking lot that they have, now costs $26 to park there per day. I don't know how they expect jurors who pay $40 a day to park there. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. But they're the first ones who mentioned to us that the jail is going to house 1,500 people. So now with 1,500 people, you're also going to have 1,500 correction officers. You're going to have 2,000 support staff people. You're going to have visitors to Rikers Island, to the Queens House, the new improved Queens House. It's going to create, just logistically, it's silly. But they haven't even started getting the approval from the planning boards for this, because nobody has any concrete plans about how they're going to do this. But now, the Lippman Commission, to show you what they're talking about, Rikers Island right now has about 8,200 prisoners. And they are from all over the city of New York. They estimate that in order to close Rikers, they picked out a number of 5,000. And they said that they have to get the population of Rikers down to 5,000 in order to close it and house people in the local facilities. I don't know how they came to the number 5,000. Nobody seems to really know. The only thing we could figure is that they could go to Queens and say, we're going to build a facility that houses 1,000 or 1,200 people there. The same thing with Brooklyn, the same thing with Manhattan, the same thing with the Bronx. That if they went to a particular borough and said, we're going to house 2,500 people in your borough, because that's how many people you have in Rikers, they'd never be able to sell that. They'd never be able to find the space for it, number one. They'd never get community approval for it. And they'd never be able to build it. So the goal then came to reduce the population on Rikers slowly over time, to get it down to 5,000. And how do they do that? Well, they come up with various alternatives to detention programs, so that when a judge sets bail, he doesn't set $5,000 bail, he puts a defendant in a supervised release program, where he's essentially ROR, and he's called by this agency prior to his court dates, and he's supposed to come in and appear in court. So they started with that. They started pressuring the criminal court judges not to set bail on defendants on minor cases. The problem is that the defendants who are charged with minor cases are the defendants who are the biggest nuisance in the neighborhoods. As I said before, they are the shoplifters. They are people who doing graffiti. And I'm not just talking about some 16-year-old kid scratching his name on the wall. I'm talking about the people who go in and do an entire side of the building, and they've got prior cases where they've been doing the same thing, and they've finally been put in jail by a particular judge. But when we saw that, we did a study of the population on Rikers Island. And we have access to, when I say we, in my office. Because, we started looking at it, is this real? Is this, is this the population of Rikers Island? Or are we missing something? So we did an analysis. We get a data feed from Rikers Island on all the defendants who are in Rikers Island every day. And we have in our data bank the records of all the defendants who have cases pending in Queens County. And we have data on the crimes that they're charged with. We have all sorts of data that we use to analyze how we're doing as an office and what's going on in the system. So I'm going to go through my charts. I'm going to go a little bit out of turn on it. But what people have to realize is that New York City, since 1993, has had a tremendous decline in crime. And it's due in large measure to the New York City Police Department. They instituted enormous high-tech, they motivated their officers, their captains and lieutenants, and sergeants, inspectors are all responsible, and they're held responsible for what goes on in their precincts. So since 1993, murder in New York City. Murder in New York City since 1993 has gone down 82%. When D.A. Brown first came in, he started in 1992, there were 350 homicides in Queens County. Last year we had under 50. Robbery is down 80%. Burglary is down 85%. Grand larceny, 81%. Car theft is down 94%. In 1993, there were 50,000 cars stolen in Queens County. 50,000. I figured it out one time. If you lined them up from the Midtown Tunnel, Queens entrance going into Manhattan, you lined all those cars up from there, out on the Long Island Expressway. It would stretch beyond Montauk. That's how many cars were being stolen. Last year we had about 2,000. So it went from 50,000 to 2,000. It's amazing. Felony assault is down 68%. Rape is down 49%. These are real, measurable crimes. People who weren't here in the 70s and 80s and 90s have no concept of what was going on in this county back then. I lived through it. As an assistant DA, I lived through it. I live in Queens now. I lived here all my life. Back in that time, I was carrying 25 murder cases. Every assistant in my office was carrying 25 murder cases. We had a murder a day in Queens County. Now it's down to a murder a week, which is still too high, and we're working very hard to get that down. But this is what's happened in New York City over the last 25 years. It's amazing. Nobody would have thought that we could ever bring crime down the way that we did. But it happened. And it happened because of policies set in place by the district attorney, by New York City Police Department, and by probation, by parole, all the law enforcement agencies that made everybody's life in the county a lot better than it was before. So that's another thing we hear about is the incarceration rate in the city of New York. Now, these numbers are actually from 2015, because it's the only ones I could get that compared all these cities. The incarceration rate in New York City was 194 per 100,000 people. We're the lowest incarceration rate of any major city in the United States. Let me repeat that. We have the lowest incarceration rate of any major city in the entire United States. San Diego, it's 259. Los Angeles, 263. Chicago, 281. Houston, 294. Phoenix, 302. San Jose, 309. San Antonio, 312. Dallas, 368. And Philadelphia is 810. It's 4 times the incarceration rate of the city of New York. Now, higher incarceration rate doesn't always lead to lower crime. Philadelphia has a higher crime rate than New York City. Chicago certainly has a higher crime rate than New York City. Houston does, Phoenix does, San Jose, San Antonio, Dallas. Every one of those cities has a higher crime rate than New York City. And we have the lowest incarceration rate of any of those cities. And that's because of what the New York City Police Department has done in going after gangs, going after organized crime, and going after career criminals. And career criminals, I don't mean just people who rob. I'm talking about the people who do the burglaries, the car thefts, the petty larcenies, stealing stuff from your car, stealing stuff from picking your pocket, getting your wallet on the subway or in the store. That's what happened over the last 25 years. So in fact, the New York City incarceration rate since this date, 2015, is actually down to about 160 per 100,000. Now we look at the Rikers Island inmate population. When we did this, we took a snapshot of Rikers Island. And we looked at all the people who were in Rikers Island, citywide. And we got information from Department of Corrections on what those people were being held on. And there's a big myth that 3/4 of the people who are in Rikers are there awaiting trial. Well, that's technically true. They are awaiting trial, but they're not being held simply because they're awaiting trial. Only 49% of all Rikers Island detainees are being held on bail. The others are being held on various. Let's start with this one. As of January 25th, 2018, there were approximately 9,000 inmates on Rikers Island. The non-pretrial detainees, that means sentenced to prison, people who have already had their trial and sentenced to up to a year in jail. There were 2,000 of those. So that brings it down to about 7,000 defendants who are being held on Rikers with open cases. Meaning they have a trial pending, or a hearing pending, or a case pending in the court system. 119 of those were serving a sentence on another city case. 993 of them were New York State parole violators, which means they're awaiting trial on our case, but they also have violated parole, which means that they have a prior felony conviction. They were sentenced to parole after they served a state sentence, and then they violated parole. There are approximately 1,000 of those, 993. Under the state law, New York City has to house people who violate parole in New York City, even though it's a state offense technically, because parole is a state issue. But New York City has to house them. There are 993 of them. They couldn't get out if they made bail on their New York City pending case. There were 2,241 of those defendants were remanded without bail. Now, for you to get remanded by a judge in the city of New York, you have to have either a horrendous record, it has to be a horrendous crime, or there's a warrant out for you from another jurisdiction across the United States. There's a warrant for you in Arizona, California, Florida, Michigan, New Jersey, and you're remanded on that warrant pending the outcome of your Queen's case. 42 of those defendants had New York City bench warrants, and 281 of them had other jurisdiction warrants. But a lot of the remands are people who have murder cases. There are about 100 or so of those. And all the others are people who are charged with very, very serious crimes, very, very serious records. facing very, very serious time in the community. So the total number of people who could get out on bail, if they made bail, is 3,330. Everybody else, out of the 9,000 people there, if they posted bail, they wouldn't get out because that's not what holding them in jail. Everybody understand that? I mean, I might have bail set me at $1,000, but I've got a warrant holding me there from Michigan. I could post my $1,000, and I'm not going to get out of jail because of the Michigan warrant. So I'm not going to post the $1,000 because it doesn't do me any good. So I'm held on Riker's records as being held on $1,000 bail. That's, if you look it up, it'll say, Jim Quinn his bail is $1,000. And I become one of the guys, I'm in jail on $1,000. Less than $2,500. It's a shame. How can you keep somebody on $1,000 bail? So now, we looked at those 3,330 people. Now, these are the people who, if they made bail, would be released. It's 3,330 in Rikers Island. 262 of them are being held on A felonies. Now, an A felony is a large amount of drugs or murder, or attempted murder of a police officer. That's an A felony. There are 1,239 of them being held on B felonies. B felony was robbery in the first degree, burglary in the first degree, attempted murder, assault one. Those are all B felonies. Those are the people who are being held in Rikers. There's 1,239 of them. The C felonies, there are 707 of them. C felonies are assault, attempted burglary in the second degree. Burglary in the second degree, by the way, is burglary of your house. Somebody going into your house. Those are the B felonies. Attempting to go into your house and burglarize you is a C felony. Attempted robbery in the first degree is a C felony. Robbery in the second degree is a C felony. Grand larceny, there are certain degrees that make it a C felony. Those people, there are 707 of them being held on Rikers Island. The D felony, you always hear them talking about there are so many people in jail on non-violent felonies. Well, the non-violent felonies, it just means a larceny. It just means somebody hit you over the head when they stole your pocketbook. It means they ran up to you on the street and grabbed it and ran away. Those are the D felonies. The D felony, somebody steals your car. That's not a violent felony. But you're violated, and those are the types of people who are being held on D felonies. There are 648 of them. The E felonies, there's 237 of them. And this is citywide. This is not just Queens. This is the entire city of New York. Those E felonies are attempts to steal your pocketbook, attempts at D felonies, a lot of credit card cases, check fraud, employee theft, those types of crimes. They're not violent, but they have an impact on you. Identity theft, all those types of things that that everybody, it was a good shooting, that kind of stuff. In the entire city of New York, okay, out of 9,000 inmates on Rikers Island, there are only 227 of them charged with a misdemeanor who are being held solely because they can't post bail. 227 out of almost 9,000 inmates. But you will always hear them talking about, there are all these nonviolent felons, these nonviolent misdemeanor defendants being held on jail simply because they can't get bail. The misdemeanors, it's only 8 of them. It's in the entire city of New York. Right? This is, I had to check this 5 times before I made my first meeting because I couldn't believe it. We ran the numbers in Queens County. The total number of defendants being held on a misdemeanor. Now, a misdemeanor is shoplifting, assault in the third degree. A lot of our domestic violence cases are assaults in the third degree, where the husband beats the wife beats the husband, and the injuries are not serious, but they're painful. In the entire county of Queens, there are only 47 defendants being held on bail on misdemeanors simply because they can't pay bail. 47. So then we took it one step further. We wanted to make sure that we were right. And we looked at just the Queens defendants, right? Because with the Queens defendants, we have access to a lot more data than we do defendants from the Bronx or Brooklyn or Manhattan. We have our own database that we can merge with the Department of Corrections. And we looked at those, of all the defendants from Queens who are on Rikers Island, there are about 1,700 of them. Only 580 of them were bailable, meaning they posted bail, they were released. 580 out of 1,700 defendants on Riker. Of those 580, 34 of them were charged with an 8th felony. Again, most of them are murders or large amounts of drugs. We looked at the prior records of those defendants. Of those 34 defendants charged with an 8th felony, again, murder or large amounts of drugs, they had an average of 4 felony arrests, about 1 felony conviction, almost 2 misdemeanor arrests, 2 misdemeanor convictions, and 1 failure to appear, meaning that they failed to appear in court on a prior court date. Then we looked at the B felonies. People charged with robbery, burglarizing their house, attempted murder. There were 197 of them. They had an average of almost 5 felony arrests, 1 felony conviction, 3.5 misdemeanor arrests, 3.8 felony convictions, and 1 prior to appear. These are the people who are on Rikers now. Then we looked at the C felonies. There were 152 of them. An average of 4.5 felony arrests, 1 felony conviction, 3 misdemeanor arrests, 3 misdemeanor convictions, and 1.3 felony failures to appear. Now the next group, the D and E felons, are the non-violent felony offenders that they talk about, it's not a threat to let them out. They're non-violent. These are the ones that shouldn't be in Rikers. So we looked at them. There were 112 people charged with D felonies. At an average of almost 7 prior felony arrests. Prior. That doesn't include the one they're in on. 1.5 felony convictions, average. 7 prior misdemeanor arrests. For a total of almost 14 prior arrests. 8 misdemeanor convictions. And 3 failures to appear. These are the non-violent felony offenders that they are looking to release from Rikers Island. We looked at the E felonies. Again, the E felonies are attempted grand larceny, a lot of check cashing cases, credit card cases. There are only 39 of them in the whole system being held simply because they can't pay bail. 39 in a county of 2.5 million people. They had an average of 6.8 prior felony arrests. That's only 7 prior felony arrests. That means they got arrested 7 times for a felony. That doesn't mean they only committed a felony 7 times in their lives. I mean, the clearance rate on a lot of these things, your credit card gets used by somebody. Have you ever been called to court on it? No. But these are the people who are doing that. They're the people stealing the cards and using them. But the average is 7 prior felony arrests, 1.5 felony convictions, almost 9 misdemeanor arrests, a total of about 16 prior arrests for these non-violent felony offenders. We have 9 misdemeanor convictions and 3 failures to appear. These are the people who are in Rikers now. These are the people who have to be released in order for the population to get down to 5,000. In order to get the population of Queens down to where they need it, they have to release every single one of these defendants. Every single one. doesn't make any sense at all. To what end? When you get down to the misdemeanors, again, there are only 43 people on Rikers charged with misdemeanor who would get out if they made bail. 43. So the next time you see somebody getting up saying, well, with all these nonviolent felony offenders, or these misdemeanor defendants, or people charged with minor crimes being held on Rikers solely because they can't make bail, it's not true. Ask them to show you the numbers. Nobody has ever disputed these numbers. We've given them to the other DA's offices. The other DA's offices know these numbers. They run the same thing. The city knows these numbers. Everyone on that commission knew those numbers. On the misdemeanors, they have an average of 4 prior felony arrests, 7 misdemeanor arrests, 7 misdemeanor convictions, and 3 failures to appeal. So these are the people who are going to be released if they go through with their plan to reduce the population of Rikers from about 8,200, where it is now, down to about 5,000. Every single one has to be released, but even that doesn't get you to the 5,000. You've got to release another 150 people who are not bailable. So then we heard that they were looking at the parole violations. That they're violating people on parole on technical violations, and that's what's crowding up the jail structures. That's also not true. The parole system doesn't go and say, oh, you didn't report today, so I'm banging you with a parole revocation and you're in hell. Or you missed your curfew, you have a 9 o'clock curfew, you're out at 10 o'clock at night. No, they don't do that. They have a graduated set of penalties for the defendant. They can mean he has to report more often to his parole officer. They can mean that his curfew gets moved from 9 o'clock to 8 o'clock. They can mean all sorts of various penalties that a defendant can have. What they do look at is defendants who are found at 3 o'clock in the morning outside the store in a designated area, who has a history of burglarizing stores. He will probably be violated because he's more likely to commit a crime when he's out at 3 o'clock in the morning than at 7 o'clock in the evening. So that is the next attack is going to be on the people who are violated on parole. We Queens have a very, very active parole and probation violation unit. If the defendant is on parole, we get flagged at the time of his arrest. The same thing with probation. We will immediately he's on parole or probation. We then look at the case, we look at the case that we have, and make a determination whether or not to seek to have that defendant violated on his parole or probation. And it's been extremely successful. Over the years, we've taken hundreds of dangerous defendants off the street on parole violations and probation violations. And it's a matter of public safety. It's something that we do in order to keep the people of this city and this county safe. And the VA instituted these projects a long time ago, and we stick with it. So, closing of Rikers. I don't know what to say. It's one of the most frustrating things. I've gone to various meetings. I've debated a couple of people about it. And the only thing you hear is that Rikers is a terrible place. They bring up, you mentioned one of the names that they always bring up is Khalif Browder. I'm sure everybody knows his name. A young man who was held on Rikers on the story is he was held on stealing a backpack, and bail was set at $3,000, and he couldn't make it, and he stayed in jail, and ultimately, after 3 years in jail, his case was dismissed, and he committed suicide. Now, what they don't tell you is that, yes, he was held, he was arrested for a robbery, and bail was set at $3,000. But what they don't tell you is he had a prior robbery, which he got youthful offender, meaning his conviction was quite clean, and he was put on 5 years probation. He committed the second robbery while he was out on probation on the first robbery. So probation violated him on the probation, and he was held on that. They don't tell you that while he was at Rikers, he assaulted guards, he was a danger, which is why he was in solitary confinement for a long period of time. He was a danger not just to himself, but to other prisoners. He attacked other prisoners, he attacked correctional officers in Rikers Island. What they want people to think is that he committed suicide while in Rikers. Well, he wasn't in Rikers when he committed suicide. He'd been out of Rikers for approximately 2 years before he committed suicide. But that doesn't fit the narrative. And the narrative is that it's a terrible place, and it is a terrible place. It's a jail, for God's sake. I mean, you know, they try to make it as regimented as possible, and it's very difficult to do when you've got 8,000, 9,000 inmates in a facility. And it's not a pleasant place. And if you want to make it better, you can make it better by taking one of the jails that has now been closed because Rikers Island population has gone down, and fix it. Make it a better jail. Make it a place that, you know, has whatever you're dreaming of doing in the jail facilities around the city. It would be much easier, it would be much cheaper, it would be much faster, and it makes a lot more sense to do. So that was the position that VA took before the Lippman Commission. We still don't understand why that is not an option. I think that one of the councilmen in the city council has proposed studying that as an alternative to closing Rikers and maybe more than that. I think it's Bob Hogan. And that is a more workable solution to all of this. It's something that can be done faster. It's certainly done cheaper. Imagine the types of prisons you could build for $10 billion on Rikers Island, and you didn't have to fight community boards and rip down the existing facility that's there now and then build it from the bottom up. And that they're ignoring a lot of what you hear from corrections experts. When they talk about building a prison, flat is better. It's easier to move prisoners from one facility to another, or from the cafeteria to their cells, or cafeteria to the gym, or wherever they're going to go. You don't have to deal with elevators or staircases. You put people in an elevator and move them up to the 13th floor in order to get them back to their cells, to get them to the clinic. Rikers Island is a gigantic facility. They have a garage on Rikers Island that repairs their vehicles. They have a bakery on Rikers Island. They makes all the bread for all the prison facilities on Rikers Island. They have a hospital there that they can bring prisoners to. They have an infirmary there. They have 14 different classifications of prisoners that have to be housed in separate facilities from one another. Men from women, gay from straight, gang from gang, mentally ill from normal. When we mentioned this to the architect, we told them we thought that there were 21, and they said, no, it's 97 different facilities, 97 different classifications of prisoners that have to be accommodated in any prison. So, for them to say it's easy, it's workable, it's simple, it makes sense, it doesn't make sense. And it would be nice to have an argument about closing Rikers, rebuilding Rikers, or doing nothing in an atmosphere where there are no recriminations about why are you doing that. Where you talk about the facts, you talk about logical stuff. So that's my spiel. I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Yeah. What percent of the prisoners held at Rikers? What percent of the prisoners held at Rikers Island are illegal aliens?
That I don't know. The city doesn't really collect that information.
Why?
Yeah, why?
It's not my decision.
Wasn't the census that was a great presentation. Just a couple of things. I think it would have been nice to have Karen Koslowitz, who's in favor of this closing Rikers, Barry Gronachek, and the other people that people were signing, the faculty people signing, they were signing petitions, an idea of people who are in favor of closing Rikers Island. Guys, you got to start thinking about what you're doing and make that connection. Your council people from this area are in favor of closing Rikers Island. And this is happening faster than you can imagine. And I thought you made a very good presentation. I saw the other presentation you made at the Queen Civic Congress. I just wish you would have had Karen so she could stand up and try to defend her position. It would have been nice to hear her. Because she doesn't tell her constituents in her newsletters what she wants to do. So it's really important that you guys really want to do that. But anyway, one of the things that also...
Many of these people were invited to attend.
Okay, very good. One of the things that I do hear that they always are saying, well, you want to close Rikers Island because moving these prisoners from Rikers to the courthouse is very, very expensive, and opening up a neighborhood prison in our community would make it easier. Can you just comment about that? Because I hear that a lot. I want to hear what the response to that is.
I'll answer that. In just a couple of seconds. Rikers Island, they transport prisoners all over the city from Rikers Island for their court dates. And they've been doing that for 10 or 15 years. They closed the Queen's house maybe 15 years ago. Marty Horn was the commissioner of corrections at the time that they did that. And they did that to save money because they had moved all they had a whole staff at the Queen's house. They had cook for prisoners, they had a medical facility that they had to keep there, they had all the jail guards that they had to keep there. And he closed it and would start bringing prisoners from Rikers Island into the Queen's court facility. The Lippman report, I'm going to refer to that because that's one of the things that they talk about, is the onerous burden of Board of Corrections of producing prisoners at the various facilities and the enormous expense of producing prisoners at the various courthouses. New York City Corrections has a budget of about $3 billion. The total amount that they spend on transporting prisoners to all of the different courthouses is $31 million a year. Right? If you look at it, they're going to spend $23 billion to save $31 million a year, which doesn't make sense. But now, when they talk about the borough facilities, they say, well, it's better to have the defendants near their family, and it's easier for them to visit them, and you can make it more of a community facility rather than just a jail. The problem is that not every defendant who has a case pending in Queens County lives in Queens. We have a lot of defendants come from Brooklyn, we have a lot of them come from Manhattan, and we have a lot of them come from the Bronx. Now, what do you do with a defendant who has a case pending in Queens, but he lives in the Bronx? Does he go to the Bronx facility, or does he go to the Queens facility? If he goes to the Queens facility, well then, you're not meeting your goal of having him closer to his family. Because the family now has to travel from the Bronx all the way out to Kew Gardens in Queens to visit the defendant. The city has not really even thought about that. And there are a lot of defendants who have cases in 2 different boroughs and live in a 3rd. Where do you house them? It becomes a lot more complicated than just putting them in Rikers and introducing them at his court date in Queens. If you want to make it easier for families to get to visit their people in Rikers, well, then do something about that. I mean, getting to Rikers Island or even the Queen's house from Rockaway is no easy task either. But those things are thrown out there to kind of give a justification for something that I don't quite understand it.
Thank you. I'm sorry I can't get that. Thank you for the great presentation. I have a question. I understand architects have already come to speak to you, so they're probably in some sort of schematic phase or just doing research. Can you please tell me where this is at as far as decision making, the city
short answer is, I don't know. I don't think the city really knows. I mean, we just never, you know, the architects have not even started designing this stuff yet. They've been visiting sites and started talking to the various DA's offices to get their feedback. I'm sorry? They hired a firm to do a preliminary plan. And, you know, I don't know, you know, I don't think they're really that far along. The plan was to do this within 10 years. But everybody, you know, you get some people say, we can do it in 5 years. Well, you can't do it in 5 years. You're not going to be able to do it in 10 years by the time you get it.
Can I just clarify that, okay? I disagree with you. The political process, the doesn't very involved in this issue, is well on the way. Bronx is trying to speed this up, and the ULURP process, which is a land review process, they've actually consolidated into one process in order to speed it up. So even though they may have difficulty building it, the political process is gaining traction. Every council member in Queens except for Bob Holden, Eric Ulrich, and I think Paul Valone, are not in favor of this. Everyone else, every other council member, your council members that you're signing the petition tonight for, are in favor of, I saw a petition, I'm going to sign a petition.
Bob, please. A lot of people.
She asked me a question about the petition. The point I'm trying to make is that
Bob, there are other people asking questions.
Will you allow me to finish? Chairman, will you allow me to finish? The point I'm trying to make is that this political process is well underway, sped up, it's going very fast, and if people don't make that connection between who they vote for and what's done, it's going to go even faster. Now, I know you want me to sit down, but you need to understand that.
Thank you very much, Bob. Coming back here,
Mr. Quinn, very great presentation, very enlightening. Now, your boss, Richard Brown, very respected. And obviously, the Lippman Commission was biased, right? Because he believed in putting the jails in the neighborhoods. Now that Bob Holden, to Bob's point, is bringing this back to get an alternative bid, right? To see what the negotiations would be to rehabilitate Rikers. Does Richard Brown have any influence with the city councilman, since he's a respected district attorney for all these years? Because he's obviously, I read the articles, he's anti moving into the neighborhoods. Does he have influence now that Bob Holden brought it back to light?
So the VA has opposed this during the VA has a legislative breakfast every year in February. I spoke last February to the entire, all the legislators who showed up, the city councilmen, assemblymen, state senators, congressmen, and he spoke about closing Rikers and that it's not a good idea. I just wanted to say that I didn't mean to say that this is not moving along. It's moving along, but it's going to take a lot longer than they think, because all the people that they're bringing in, the architects, we're telling them what's going on. We're talking about parking, and they're almost like laughing, and it was, so this is moving on.
But Bob's right. We don't want it to be to the point where they make a decision and move it along.
I agree.
We know it's going to take a long time to get this done, but we don't want a decision where they're going to start the process.
Exactly.
We don't want
I can't get involved in the politics of it because I work in the DA's office, so I'm giving you facts.
Facts.
And these facts have, again, these have been out there for 2 years. They've never been disputed. I went to the meeting at the Farm Museum. We had a debate there with Rory Lansman and Karen Koslowitz. And the head of the correction officers union was there. He was arguing against talking about Americans.
Very good.
A very good presentation, I said, by Mr. Quinn. A couple of questions. One, how do the other DAs feel about Riker? Number one. And number two, you said that the opposition, the activists for closing Rikers, have essentially used fake news to make their case. Are the mayor and Corey Johnson aware of your presentation?
Yes. We actually, we had he wants to know if the mayor and the present speaker of the city council are aware of the numbers that I've given here. We've shared this with everybody. We went to I went to a debate down by the World Trade Center. It was a forum, and they had various members of the city council. I brought all my charts, put them up on an easel, I went through every single one. We have emailed these charts to various city council members. We sent them to State Senator Deblasio's office, called up and asked for them specifically. I would give them to anybody. I would speak anywhere. We have given it to other city council members. We emailed it to them. I personally handed it to them. I don't know all the city council members. I couldn't tell you what their names were. But I think Corey Johnson was one of the ones that I handed it to when we found to our place.
Paul Hines?
I wonder how come it's never been like people vote on it? Because I don't think most people want it in their backyard. I think most people would vote no. Why is we never got a chance to vote on it?
I don't know politics. Oh, I'm sorry. Why can't people vote on this? Why can't they do without having it?
We do vote on it. We voted on it in November. We can vote for your council mayor.
We voted for Deblasio. When you got Deblasio, you got everything that went with Deblasio.
That's not on the ballot. That's
And
on the ballot.
No. I'm Vicky Palladino. Thank you very much. And thank you very much. That was excellent. And Bob, you were excellent. Let me say this. When everybody voted for Deblasio, this is the package deal you got. Nobody was uninformed. Everybody was very well informed what came with Deblasio should you cast your vote for Deblasio. This was a key issue. The key issue was, I'm not talking federal politics here, I'm talking about local politics. I'm running for New York State Senator, District 11, thank you very much. And this, like I was saying, this came along with Deblasio. Everybody here was informed. I think this group, everybody who voted in November, were the most informed New Yorkers about what we had in Gracie Mansion and City Hall than any other mayor's race I've known. I'm 64 years old. I've seen a few mayor's races. Now, when you voted for Deblasio, you voted for the breakup of Rikers Island. Mr. Quinn here, everything he presented, they snowed under. They pushed it under the rug. By his own admittance, they just basically ignored his charts and what he had to say and the facts. They don't give a damn about you. Understand this administration will push through whatever they want to push through. Unless we, the people, vote and fight
Well, you put
for
on a
what
ballot,
we
then you
want.
vote no.
No, you voted for Deblasio. It's a package deal. That's what people have got to understand. People stay.
Lady, we're not giving you a diet.
Okay, I'm just saying, this is why you got Rikers Island.
Everyone has a question.
Okay, but Rikers Island is called an island for a reason.
That's right. You go to New York.
There you're right. You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Two-part question. What do the other DAs feel about this issue? What do the other DAs, the other three or four that are involved?
The Manhattan DA's office is supporting the closing of Rikers. The Brooklyn DA's office is supporting the closing of Rikers. The Bronx DA's office is.
Does the DA in Queen then, unfortunately you're by yourself it seems, do you have the power
Well
to,
said, Staten Island is opposed to closing Rikers.
do you have the power to investigate the commission? Look at what de Blasio did with the stables in Manhattan. He wanted to give the land to his developer friends.
That's right.
You told us that developers were on this commission. I'm sorry, if there's smoke there, there's a fire.
Exactly.
So does he want to give Rikers Island to his developers friends?
Of course he does. It's waterfront property.
It can't be investigated.
Right, investigate it.
That's the bottom line.
Can we give it to the state DA to investigate, so on?
It is corruption.
I don't think that's something that we could investigate, because I don't think Queens County has jurisdiction over it. Rikers Island is geographically in the Bronx, and probably any of those meetings, whatever it is, occurred in the past. But
A federal
the-
investigation.
well, I mean, the commission itself, there is a logic to having real estate people on the commission because they're looking at alternative uses for Rikers if they close down the island. What it could be used for? Could it be used for housing? Could it be used as a waste treatment plant? Could it be used for whatever? So there is a logic to having them on the commission.
But is there a tie between those developers and Deblasio? Or were they independent, that someone who never met him before on the commission?
He's
Or were they
talking
his
to
friends?
everybody. Please.
Whatever, I'm just trying to be devil's
You're
advocate.
being diplomatic, which is very nice.
I'm just trying to be devil's advocate.
You're doing good, that's
So
it.
could have been a developer who did not know him, that they were part of the commission, was one of his cronies. Right, I mean, look at the former city council president, how she was with her cronies.
Follow the money and you'll find it.
So, I mean, all this comes down to money.
Always.
Oh, yeah.
Always money.
Which district attorney, not Queens, is blind that they won't look into this? It's obvious there's something there.
Well,
Thank you, Alan. Susan Cleary. Susan.
Hi, Susan Cleary, Kew Gardens Hills President, Tenants Association President, and member of CBA. I don't understand why if they are really going to close Rikers, why it can't be moved upstate into Coxsackie with the rest of the prisons.
That's a good point.
Yes?
That's a good point. Oh, they can't commute. They got shuttle buses.
That's not what the plan is.
but there was a time in New York City when Rikers Island had a population of 23,000 inmates. That was back in the late 80s, early 90s, because the crime rate was so high in this county, I mean, in the city of New York. So they had 23,000 inmates on Rikers Island. That was the time when the city bought a bar to house 700 inmates on. They contracted with the state to house prisoners in state facilities. So theoretically, it could be done. But the goal here is to release the prisoners.
Exactly right.
That is the
Exactly
bottom
right.
line. Housing them in a state facility is not something that they want to do. It is, you know, that's what they want to do.
They don't want to try to add something. They don't want to.
Abe, you have something to ask?
All right.
Stand up, Abe.
What about the community boards? What are they saying about this? And is there general community buy-in or feedback or whatever it is that usually happens when projects go on in their neighborhoods?
I don't know. I know that the community boards have to have some input and if something is going to be rezoned into their area. The problem with Queens is that the Queens house is already there. So it's already zoned for a correctional facility. So I don't know, you know, if they triple the size of it, how much approval they need from the planning board. So that stuff I don't know. I'm not a politician. I'm not a civil attorney. I've been an ADA all my life. I'm just telling you what's out there, what's coming. And
Yeah, but the facility is still being used for a different use. I mean, it's a different population being brought in.
well, it's a different population, but it's the same use. So I'm telling you, I don't know.
Okay.
I just don't know.
I mean, it would seem that there would be some town halls that I mean, just like we're having now, but on a larger scale.
Yeah.
Now a TV
They don't
studio.
care about it.
I've seen that.
Hi, sorry, see that again. I know everybody here is very unhappy. Stand up now. She can't. She has a bad name. So I'm an action type of person. I see a problem, I jump right on it. So I want to know, this is the first up with an action plan. I'm serious.
Yes.
What is the plan?
Well, why doesn't this group pass a resolution in opposition to the, why doesn't this organization pass a resolution in opposition
I
to
have it.
plan to close, send it to each of the council members, and then each of the individual members here call up your council members. That's how you're gonna get this thing to slow down. That's the
More
only
about
way.
action.
Another thing is what you could do is, you as a president of a community board 8 you said?
Yep.
Start your own meetings now. And speak out. If you own condos or co-ops and you're in this area, start small. Start with your immediate people that
Now
you,
in the summer.
I know, they broke for the summer, I understand that. But the best thing you could do an emergency meeting. You could do an emergency meeting. Start with your locals, and then build it up and let your locals come together to make one big loud bang, and that's how it goes. And get the press involved. Get social media involved. This is how you do it. We're all here, we're a little group, but we each are here to represent another group. So you take your message to your groups. Make your small groups larger groups, and make your voices heard. That's about the best I can tell you.
I would just like to make a statement here. I'm sorry I forgot your name.
Vicky Palladino.
Vicky.
Yes.
I've been in the housing area for over 40 years. I started when I was 2.
Me too.
The issue, in my mind, the issue with Rikers is prime
Real estate, absolutely.
There are hardly any other places to go to gentrify, to build luxury housing.
Yeah, they
And
use
so
that.
they look to Rikers.
That's right.
And then they want to put it into the borough.
Well, that's what we.
And we should all be against it.
That's exactly
Because
right,
there are a lot of
100%.
other problems involved with putting them into the borough. In Rikers, they have room to let prisoners go out into the air for a couple hours during
Let
the
them
day.
work while they're out
If they
there.
put them into the boroughs, there's not that much real estate where they can give that much room to those prisoners. So there are other issues involved with coming into the borough.
Florence?
Absolutely.
But prime real estate.
That's what it was from the very start
It's
when I
all
heard.
about the money.
Water, that's what I said,
Florence.
follow the money. Waterfront property.
Let me just say something. By the way, I hope Mr. Gottlieb, when a politician comes here and filibusters, you're as passionate to tell them to stop filibustering as you are to ordinary citizens, okay? So when the next politician comes here, listen to what I'm saying. When the next politician comes here and filibusters, I hope you are as passionate at stopping them from filibustering as you are to ordinary citizens who come out here.
That's
Now,
correct, and we had a meeting beforehand,
Okay.
executive committee meeting, and you know it, everybody knows. I said, anybody wants to filibuster or get off the topic, we're gonna shut them down.
Florence, as far as the real estate, I agree with you, but I think it's a little bit more nefarious than that. It's not just real estate. You have a progressive agenda that sees
Correct.
Exactly.
helping, in other words, putting these individuals closer to the communities where they are, so their families can come and visit them is more important than the families who live in the community.
Pay taxes.
That's a progressive ideology that's driving this. I'm a Democrat, and the Democrat Party has moved way far to the left for me.
right,
But
and
it's
boy.
not just real estate, it's that ideology. Don't lose
That's
sight
the
of that.
ideology.
That's driving this process.
100% right, Bob.
Anyone else want to raise a question? Lady in the back, stand up.
My name is Ann Dykes and I'm a part of this club. I want to know, is closing Rikers Island is a part of this whole prison reform that we're seeing now? Is it just about Rikers Island? Is it a part of the whole prison reform that is being talked about across this country? Because they definitely need reform.
Oh, if you're asking my opinion, I think that it is part of the nationwide prison reform.
We do need to
However-
change the prison reform in this country. It is not fair.
Well, the numbers that I point out, that New York City has the lowest incarceration rate of any major city in the United States. We have the lowest crime rate of any major city in the United States. Those are numbers, those are undeniable numbers. I think that this is part of it's almost like New York City jumping on board to solve a problem that doesn't exist. If you want to improve Rikers, there are other ways to do it that would be cheaper and more effective and wouldn't involve the community opposition that is arising to this. You could fix up Rikers in 2 years with a will, rather than waiting around for 10 years to build 5 prisons all over the city of New York. And it doesn't make any sense if you seriously, genuinely want to reform the prison system to wait 10 years to do it with Rikers. And it could be done much more effectively, much more quickly, and much more cheaply by keeping Rikers open. There are other reasons that people want to close Rikers, whether it's ideological, whether it's financial, or whatever it is. But my argument is that we have to look at this rationally and not through ideological prism. And if we can do that, and if we can sit down and talk about it logically, and think about, well, if we do this, what's going to happen? And we're really going to, and we really thought these things out. And the more I see, the more I see, the more I realize that they haven't really thought these things out to the end. And that frightens me. And it frightens me, if they reduce Rikers Island to 5,000, that means the city of New York will have 5,000 beds. In a city of 8.5 million people.
Right.
Do you really think that New York City will never have need for more than 5,000 beds? I mean, and we asked the architects, has the city considered expansion or making them bigger? And they said, well, we're trying to get them to keep one of the prisons on Rikers open in case crime goes back up. And they don't want to do it. And it just doesn't make any sense. They came up with this number of 5,000 out of thin air. They're sticking with it, and it just doesn't make any sense. I think that the logic and rationality has just been driven out of this whole debate.
That's right, you're 100%.
Yes, Evelyn, disturbing.
Just one quick question. You don't want to answer, don't. Has anybody in this room ever been a victim of a crime? Raise your hand.
Has been what?
A victim of a crime.
Yes.
All right. Do you honestly believe that the people who perpetrated these acts should be treated like guests
No.
or like prisoners?
Like prisoners, that's why they call it prison.
Now, the next question, I want to ask you to raise your hand because most of you wouldn't dare. Have you ever thought about going over and voting not party, but the proper person?
That's
for the
right.
job?
Gentlemen back there.
Hi, sir. Just one quick question. My name is Simon Minching. So let's concede for 1 second as a thought experiment that there are some issues on Rikers Island that need to be fixed. Have we ever spoken about changing the management on Rikers Island? So warden is Becky Scott. She's got 27 years of experience there in the private sector. Most folks, if they're failing in their management responsibilities and they have 27 years, they're out. So how do we go about changing the warden, Mrs. Becky Scott?
Good point.
That's
Yes.
a mayoral appointment. There was a commissioner, Joe Ponte, who resigned because of some issues in using some cars. If you talk to the Correctional Officers Benevolent Association, they are livid about this. Their concern is that the city has done away with punitive segregation for young defendants. In other words, a guy beats up another inmate, they cannot put him in solitary confinement. They have to put him back in the general population and make it very difficult for them to control not only him, but the other inmates that he attacked. So, there's a lot of things to be said about the management at the Department of Corrections, but I'm telling you, this is driven not just by the desire to build a better prison. It's driven by some other.
That's probably prison reform you're talking about, right? Prison reform to To get less punitive, get the crazy guys back in the general population?
Excuse me, Abe, somebody else is raising their hands. All the way in the back, the lady all the way, sit down. All the way in the back. All the way, thank you.
I have a question. It's like the 9,000-pound gorilla in the room. Now, you mentioned that there are the majority of the DAs are for closing rights. Only 3 are not. Is it Queens?
Staten Island.
The other,
Staten Island.
Staten Island, just 2?
And the Bronx is so-so.
And, all right, so 2.5. 2.5, everyone else is 4. All right. Huh?
There are only 2 other DAs.
Yeah.
So it's 3 against, 2 for.
3 out of 5.
3 against, 2, and
2 in favor.
Okay. So, well, really, it's not 3, because of the Bronx.
We don't
It's
know.
a tie. Well, we don't know where they go.
So
That's a
then
tie.
we
It's a tie.
have- Then we have the council members. 3 council members, right, are against,
Yeah.
and the remainder
Four.
are for.
Right.
So
Vote them
why, what's in it for them?
Right.
A big
What's in
paycheck.
it
They
for
got
the
a raise last year.
people who are for this initiative?
Good
What's in
question.
it for them?
That is a good question. That is a good question.
That's why they want to investigate.
I don't,
But I'm asking,
I
what's
don't
in it
know.
for them?
I don't know why people are in favor of this plan, and I call it a plan, but it's not really finalized yet. But the whole notion of closing Rikers, I don't know why they.
It's what Bob said before. It's what Bob said before. It's part of the reform ideology.
When you talk to them, all that you get are platitudes.
Exactly.
That Rikers is broken, that it's beyond repair, it's cruel, it's not working, you get all kind of phrases like that. But they will never explain to you why we have to reduce the population and release all these people that I just went through in order to reform Rikers. Because if you were to come to me clearly and say, look, we have 10,000 beds, we figure ultimately we're going to need 10,000 available beds in Rikers. And we're going to put a 2,000-seat prison in Queens, a 2,000-seat prison in Brooklyn, a 2,000-seat prison in the Bronx, 2,000-seat prison in Manhattan. Then that's a lot more honest than saying that there are all these people in Rikers who shouldn't be there. Because I'll tell you right now, there are more people out of Rikers who should be in than in who should be out. And the bottom line, though, is you cannot look at the population of Rikers and say we're going to reduce it by 3,000, 4,000 people and not have a significant impact on public safety. Those are the people who are going to get out because they're the people who are in. They're the only people who are eligible to get out under the circumstances. And they're going to go to neighborhoods all over the city of New York. And unless they sit down and talk about this rationally and honestly, you're not going to have a legitimate discussion of it. How can you possibly say that a city of 8.5 million people should never at any time have more than 5,000 people in jail? It doesn't make any sense.
The same reason they want to get rid of ICE.
Excuse me, there's a lady in the back with a question.
Yeah,
We've
good.
got 5 questions so far.
Yeah, good.
Go ahead.
Rikers Island, this is not the beginning of Rikers Island. Rikers Island has been in trouble for years. My brother-in-law was a correction over there in the 70s and 80s, long retired. Rikers Island was horrible then. Rikers Island didn't get all of a sudden. All of a sudden now we're talking about Rikers Island. Rikers Island has been in trouble for years. And now, I don't know the answer. If I knew the answer, I would probably be rich. I don't know the answer. No, I don't know the answer. But I know one thing, because I happen to live in Kew Gardens right up behind the courthouse, and we don't
It's politically motivated, that's why.
Sorry, let me say this. I have tried very carefully to be non-political about this. I have
What is
given.
the ratio of, what is the ratio of African Americans in Rikers Island? You didn't say that, but it's right.
Answering your question. He's answering your question. Listen to it.
84%. No. Don't jump so quick. 84% of the African Americans on Rikers Island are there because their victims were African American. 84%.
Why are we bringing race into this issue?
This is what happens.
Mr. Gottlieb, why are you allowing race to be brought into
about
this issue?
this issue? The race has nothing to do with it.
Nothing.
It has nothing to do with it. And sorry to brought it up.
For the gentleman in the blue shirt, please.
Hi, how are you? Folks, you know, excuse me.
If you're gonna talk about issues of
What?
and race does play a part.
Well, folks, it's obvious, you know, Bob Friedrich said it before, the majority of the city councilmen are for this, all right? So our next step, instead of going back and forth, he gave a great presentation of the reasons why it shouldn't be in the neighborhoods and should be rehabilitated. What's our action plan? Now, I'm a former president the last 3 years, now a board member of the Bay Club in Bayside. Okay, I'm allowed to say that, right? It's not political. And it's a 2,400 population community. And there's 98% are Democrats, so this is not a Democrat-Republican issue, okay? I didn't meet one of those 2,400 that are happy to put jails in our neighborhoods. So my thinking is, let's get a coalition of all board members and presidents or whoever. I could get people from Bay Terrace. There's a lot of buildings there. Bob could get his people in Glen Oaks? Glen Oaks. And power of the people is the only way we're gonna stop this, okay? Not politics, not anything else, okay? Power of the people. Now, I'm mentioning one topic just to give an example, all right? So don't get mad at me. SHSAT, there's been rallies, and they're gonna change, they could change that because a lot of people came out against it. We've got to do the same on this issue, okay? If we're gonna sit back and start attacking each other at these meetings, that's counterproductive. So let's all get together, let's get all the board members together, let's fight this, let's go to City Hall and tell these councilmen that we are not gonna accept this under any conditions, okay? Because forget about voting them out. They're gonna be termed out in 3 years. So we're not voting them out, okay? We gotta stop it today, okay? Because you're right, you were right, it's gonna take 10 years. But I don't want them to make a decision tomorrow to start planning for a 5 to 10 year
Correct.
plan. We got to start now, okay? So I'm volunteering my time in Bayside. I'll work with you people. I got a lot of people out there that are upset, okay? Furious, not upset, furious. They have children, okay? And they don't want jails in the neighborhoods, okay? Keep in Rikers Island, if those prisoners escape, they're on an island. If they escape here, they're gonna kill people, okay? So that's my idea, and I think we should take it seriously. And by the way, I am running for office, okay? I'm running for state assembly. I'm doing a little filibustering, sorry, Bob.
Bob, if you want to set up your own organization, that's fine. I'll join it. I'm with you on that.
Can I just say, is anybody here from Queen Civic Congress?
Yeah, Bob, what about Queen Civic Congress? How would they go?
We discussed it at Queen Civic Congress, and we have to put it on the agenda to actually take a vote. We'll go the next meeting. The next meeting, probably March. I don't remember if it's next month or September. But the next meeting, they're going to take a position, which I think is going to be in opposition to this plan. But that official vote has to take place. I think you guys should do the same thing. Maybe you'll be one step ahead of us at the Queen Civic Congress, and we could then use that to get the Queen Civic Congress.
We'll work together.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I noticed I don't know how old.
Stand up, Paul.
I don't know how old Rikers Island is, but I gather it's at least 70 years old. Why all of a sudden is it they talking about closing it? Another part of my thing is I hear the correction officers, it's a rough job. You took a test to get the job. You knew what you were getting into. I have no sympathy for you. But the part of moving it, I have a problem with that, Major. Leave it where it is. It's fine. It's now. Get it off, please. That's right. That's all.
I want to say one thing here. This whole issue is a political issue.
Yes.
I don't think it's
Exactly.
It's a good idea. But you have to be willing to talk about the issues that make you uncomfortable. And demographics, especially when you put blacks and Hispanics in the mix, makes non-black and non-Hispanic people uncomfortable. If you're not willing to have that conversation, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
How does that question affect what we're talking about?
It affects it because Rikers Island is 84% black and Hispanic.
And therefore what? Therefore what?
Therefore, the people are going to discuss that issue. What about them? What about helping them? What about keeping them from going back to jail?
Okay,
What progress
if there's discrimination in the criminal justice, no.
Let Mr. Quinn answer Ms. Whitman's comments.
I don't think that was a question.
Quite frankly, I'm not sure how to answer that.
There was no
Because whether the
question.
population is 10,000 or 5,000, the population ratio can remain the same. So there may be issues of race in the criminal justice system. But let's talk about it intelligently. But we're talking about closing a prison facility. We're closing about reducing the population of Rikers. I've shown you the type of people. I don't know whether those people are going to be released are white or black or Puerto Rican or whatever. I have no idea. I'm just telling you that they have horrendous criminal records, and they're going to be released into the population. And a very large portion of them are going to go out into the street and commit additional crimes, because that's what they do. They're career criminals. That's what the issue is. Criminals onto the streets of the city of New York to build 5 prisons all around the city. It doesn't make any sense. And it always gets bogged down in extraneous issues that don't have anything to do with the issue that we're talking about.
Okay,
Let her just finish. Let her just finish.
In Kew Gardens by a rare criminal who had 7 prior arrests. I was wrong. And coming home from work one day. And he did not live in Queens, he lived in Brooklyn. And the DA, assistant DA called me at my job to tell me if he wanted 10 years and they gave him 7 years, I think. And when he got out, I got to think. But that's not the point. The point is prison, the whole prison system across America needs to be reformed. And that's a part of it. I understand we're talking about reconciling.
But we don't want people like that on the street. We're all in agreement with that. We're in agreement with you.
I live right behind the courthouse. And I live
Absolutely, we're in agreement. We're absolutely in agreement.
Sit down, make a statement,
Lawrence, at your next
Thank you.
meeting, we can solve the prison issue in the United States.
The first question I have is, has there been a poll taken of the citizens of New York City and how they feel about closing Rikers Island? And if so, whether you know or not, from your presentation, I would assume that it's very, very high percentage want to keep Rikers where it is.
Good question.
I would, anecdotally, I would suggest that that's the way most of the people feel. And from your enlightening presentation, it leads me to believe that, you know, the Littman Commission and everybody is just going to steamroll ahead over the people's desires and what we want, you know, for our city. They won't listen to the community boards. They won't listen. They just want to go ahead for whatever ultimate, whatever
Ulterior motive.
Ulterior motive. Thank you, Abe. But I agree with Dave. We got to take some action. And I'd like to give kudos to my friend Bob Friedrich. For 2-3 years ago, he organized a rally outside of a local prison
that they were going to put part of Governor Cuomo's Close to Home program, and we were out there every Saturday morning saying, close the prison, throw the bums out, anybody who wants this prison, don't vote them out of office, and they listened.
That's
And they closed the prison because the only thing that an elected official and Mayor Deblasio and all the others will listen to is someone who threatens their job.
That's exactly right.
So we got to get out there.
Exactly right.
I agree with David. I agree with Bob that we need to take action
How about me?
and rally and make our voices heard and get the media there.
Nothing has ever been accomplished. Nothing has ever been accomplished in this country without demonstration.
Yes.
It was only the voice of the people.
Power of the
Not the voice
people.
of the politicians. We the people, but the people.
Power of the people.
Was demanding otherwise. So we can't sit behind closed doors and complain. We have to get out there and have our voices heard.
We have here civic people. Holly Civic has an opinion on this. Excuse me. Holly Civic has something to say about this.
I agree with Bob and everybody else about Chris.
Go for it.
Yeah, we're not happy with the situation at all.
Chris Vasquez, Chris, do you have anything to say from Parkway Village?
What do I have to say? Well, what I have to say is that I lived in Parkway for 34 years, and I've seen the change because of putting people that have issues, mental issues, and putting them in hotels. And I personally was attacked 2 years ago. I had to run from Chase to Chase because somebody was chasing me. And this is a mental issue. And I think these are the problems that we're having. I've seen the change in our community. So by doing this, by putting a person close to home, it eventually impacts because yes, they have issues. Yes, there's a disparity because of the race. And I start doing solving that problem and solving the problem how our community is going to be denigrated and put down. Yeah, why? I don't think they should close it up. Yeah. I'm against it. I'm against it.
Jim Gallagher still here, or is he disappeared? Jim, what do you got?
I'm here. All right. Just the point of information was brought up before. People wanted to know when is the next Queens Civic Congress meeting. So I just want to let you know I checked my calendar. It'll be on Thursday, September 20th at the Queens County
After the
Farm.
primaries.
So I just wanted to have that as a point of information. That's what that according to bring that up.
September, what did you say? 20th?
1 second.
September 20?
20th, did you say?
September 20th.
Thank you.
All right?
Yes.
And then school board 26 will be Thursday night too.
Oh, I was there.
Yeah,
Oh, you
it's
remember
coming
me
this
from
Thursday
26?
night.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Could you bring it up at your civic meeting?
No, I'm gonna bring it up with my board the next meeting. Thank you.
The other thing I would like to say is,
Can't hear you.
the other thing I would like to say is that all the large organizations, such as the Queens Civic Congress, and organizations like us, and there are plenty of other big organizations that we need to join hands together so that we have a larger voice. Okay? Because 50 people are not gonna do it. Okay? We're gonna need hundreds, or maybe 1,000 people coming out and saying, not in my borough.
Well, I just want to, I want to thank you and your board for at least having a meeting like this, so you've educated us all. Thank you.
About 7 minutes left. Any other questions?
7 minutes.
I'm going so fast. What, yeah, Quinn? Yes?
Yeah.
Alan, you had something to say?
All the statistics and boards you showed us, are they available online so we can start posting them and spreading the word?
Yeah.
No, I do not.
And are we allowed to take a picture of them and put them online?
Yes.
I'll post it all over.
Sir, you've highlighted that there's no economic benefit to spreading out to the boroughs, correct?
Can we get into that? I mean, I don't, as far as
No,
transportation
as far as the cost of rebuilding and repairing Rikers, there's no economic benefit to going out to the boroughs, rebuilding.
It doesn't make sense to me to spend that kind of money to build 4 new jails when you can spend the same amount of money and build Rikers into an absolutely state-of-the-art jail system.
So no economic benefit, and you highlighted from your numbers, there's no impact on crime, except that we might be spreading or releasing convicted criminals into the population. Is that accurate?
I think the impact on crime is going to be negative because in order to get to 5,000, you have to release 3,300 career criminals onto the street. It's just math.
You also discussed that it really doesn't solve a logistics problem because you don't know where they're going to be housed. You could have a criminal live in the Bronx, so it's not solving the mayor's concern that family can't get up there. Is there one benefit to it that you've discovered?
Okay, good.
I think that the downside of it is so far outweighed by any benefit. And the benefit is getting a new prison system, which you can do on Rikers Island.
Could I address that? I think we're all looking for, like this gentleman said, Tom Sullivan, right? We're all looking for the logic of the closing, and there is none, and all the logic is on the other side. What Bob Friedrich said before is absolutely correct, is that there is this sweeping trend of progressivism, liberalism. It's the same thing as abolishing ICE. It makes no sense. It's the same idea. Abolish Rikers Island. You might as well put them on the same plane. Abolish Rikers Island, abolish ICE. And it's this idealism from the brainless liberals who come up with these ideas.
Any other questions before we terminate the meeting?
Just been expelled from the Democratic Party.
Good.
Any other questions before we leave the meeting?
The question was whose idea was it to abolish Rikers? It was a bunch of advocacy groups that started the channel. And then the Speaker of the City Council took up the leadership of it. And it just became more of a slogan than anything else.
Well, because Rikers is very antiquated. It's not in the 21st century. So that's why I think that was part of it.
Question in the back. Young man has an answer.
Yeah. I don't know if it's so much a question, but a statement. Has anyone here ever been to prison? I have.
I know.
I've been to prison. I've had a very rough young life. And I've been to Rikers, I've been to MCC and MDC. And trust me, anyone that's in Rikers, anyone that's in prison and doesn't come out and make a better life for themselves needs to go back. Needs to get locked up 10 times as much. Because when I'm a foreman union carpenter now. I came out and I reformed my life. I'm a foreman carpenter. I have 2 houses, 3 cars, and 2 bikes. The other one crashed up. Bad accident. And there's a reason I wear long sleeve, because I choose to reform. So I think, maybe there was 99% black people in there, or Hispanic people, or Latino people, whatever you call them. I don't see color, I don't see race. Because I bet you can't even tell what I am. No, seriously, what am I? I'm Guyanese.
Right.
Yeah, not Hispanic.
You're American.
Yeah, I'm American too. Yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, so that's my statement, I guess. You don't want these people in your neighborhoods because one, you know what you get when you get released? If you're lucky, a Metro card.
That's right.
A $5 Metro card.
He's right. Good for
You think most of them are going to take that bus? No, they're going to look for whoever's going to sell them a bag for a Metro card and stay right there in that neighborhood. No joke. It's happened to Ozone Park. They put a halfway house at the back of Ozone Park, and it happens there. They let people out of the halfway house. Right, the house next door, they go and stay. They break into the people's house because it was a foreclosure or whatever. And that's what happens. You do not want this in your neighborhood. Nothing's wrong with Rikers. Nothing at all. If you didn't go there to get, you go there for 3 cops and yes, ma'am.
In Riker, was there anything that you were able to learn so that?
I got my GED.
In Riker?
In Rikers.
Would you say Rikers is antiquated? What is it?
They didn't have that word on the GED. I love that. I love the brick feel of it. Yes, there's tons of stuff to do there. There's tons of things you could learn. Tons. I learned HTML coding there because my cousin sent me an HTML book. I know HTML coding for what reason, I don't know. I'm a carpenter. I don't know why I know HTML coding. I made her website. I can't hear you, sorry. Close it? There's no position on close it. Let's fix it.
Right,
right.
right.
I'll fix it.
Right, yeah, that's right. Give this man a job.
We knew you had a point.
Marvin Martins. Yes.
How do we contact you?
Oh, please don't. Please don't.
We want you to get the contract to fix Rikers.
One.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all, folks.
Wait, wait 1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute.